Hello, my name is Mike Nicholson, and this is my modular wood material that I made in Substance Designer. As you can see here, I have the material loaded up into Substance Painter, and on the right hand side, we have a few tabs that we can control some exposed parameters. To start off, we'll use the General tab. Here we can change the wood color, the metallic, the roughness, the normal intensity, and the height intensity. The normal intensity and the height intensity come in handy if you need to manually fix or change something. Say this grain is a little bit too much for you, then you can easily bring it back down to somewhere that you are comfortable with. Same thing with the normal intensity. If you like your wood to be a little bit more on the shiny side, like it has a coating, like it has a finish upon it, then you can mess with the roughness. We can again modify the wood color to change it to whatever color we want. Wonderful. Next, we're going to move on to the wood grain. So this grain roughness here actually controls the ambient occlusion for the grain. So if you have something wrong with the ambient occlusion, or you see something might be going wrong with the ambient occlusion, then you can manually tweak it within Substance Painter. Here we also have a warp intensity. So by warps, I usually define those as the areas within the grain that you see warping outwards and back inwards. They're very circular in nature. You might find them in the wood grain every now and then. They look like notches. So you can modify those. So by sliding this, you make them a bit more visible, or you can completely remove them. You may also modify the scale of them. Okay, we can also mask those. You might be able to see it. If you are having trouble seeing it, I will include an insert of the effect within Substance Designer so you may see it happening and what should be seen within Substance Painter. We also have grain scratches, so a little bit of imperfections within the actual grain of the wood. Moving on, we have some details, so finish, roughness, imperfections. As you can see, it adds some rough patches onto the wood. So if you were to have a finish applied, so this would be very rough, then you'd have these splotches where it's a bit more rough in certain areas, and it'll make it look like the finish has worn off in certain patches of the wood. We can also add on to that by adding some finish scratches. This thing doesn't really want to show anything today. Okay, you can somewhat see here. Let me turn off these imperfections to make them less noticeable. There you go. So you can modify how these look, how intense they are. You can also change the scale. There you go. Now you're really starting to notice them. We can also change the rotation of those scratches. Next thing that we can change is the paint level. So really quickly, I'm going to increase this, or better yet, I'm going to invert this. So as you can see, we have paint now applied to the wood. I can modify the color of this paint. I'm gonna go with this sort of blue. I like this blue. And I'm going to drag up this level. So as you can see, by dragging up this level, I'm starting to remove a bit of the paint. And eventually the paint starts to almost completely disappear. We can also change the opacity of the paint to make it look a bit more faded. Again, because the paint material has its own values, we can modify the roughness of the paint as well as the height. So if you need to manually tweak something, or something might not look right in Painter, or whatever you are using this material with, you can quickly make those adjustments. One of those nice little features with the paint is the paint has isolated roughness, so the roughness is only applied to where the paint lies. The wood does not get the same treatment. In a sense, most of these things affect each other, but they're also independent of each other. So that can make for some very interesting combinations when working. There you go. There's your height. You can also change the grunge. So now the paint wearing is a little less subtle. It's a bit more solid. There's less of a gradient to it, less of it fading off, more of a solid removal of the paint. We can also invert this once again. And now you have chips of the wood appearing. You can once again change the scale of the grunge, the contrast. All these things you can play around with to get your wood material to look how you want it. Alright, that is it for this wood material. I will link some information to it as well as the page for it on my portfolio. Thank you for watching.